His shoe pinned the black card to the marble like a bug under glass. The squeal of metal on stone echoed across the lobby, and every head turned, hungry for a scene. I stood there with my canvas sneakers, my breath steady, heart doing the math, not anger yet, calculation. The night manager grinned as if he'd discovered a thief. "Get out before I call the cops." That sentence wasn't about rules. It was about who he thought I was. I bent, picked up the warm metal, and felt the imprint of his heel in my palm. No response. Silence makes insecure people talk more. He talked. He pointed at chandeliers, at imported marble, at the kind of money that thinks it can smell itself. I looked ordinary on purpose. White shirt, faded jeans, messenger bag with frayed stitching that could tell better stories than he could. Behind the counter, the clerk giggled like cruelty was a team sport. Time glowed in red digits over the elevators. I stacked priorities. The Yamamoto call at midnight. The penthouse key that should already be in my hand. The card I'd just rescued, now warmed by insult, cooling under my thumb. I slid it back into the bag, not to hide it, but to remember how small people try to be big. "I have a reservation," I said to the counter. Not to him. Not to her.
To the process, because process keeps people honest.
I placed my phone down, confirmation open, name visible. My voice stayed low so his would sound louder. Loud men dig their own holes. People shifted closer. Not to help, America loves a live show. Their eyes measured my shoes, my skin, my bag, and then measured themselves against an imaginary ladder where I was below, and they were safely above. I watched their posture change when the word penthouse passed through the air. The room didn't like that word on me. The manager smirked as if luxury had a face and mine wasn't it. He scraped my card again as if crushing it twice made him twice important. I let the insult land. I let it register in my bones and settle where resolve lives. I count to 3 when a punch is coming. I count to 5 when power is confused. I counted to 5. Then I smiled the kind of smile that warns storms are organizing off the shore. On the far sofa, a young woman angled her camera and whispered to the internet. The red light of live glowed like a pilot flame. Gas was filling the room. Nobody smelled it yet. The clerk leaned in. "Should I get the mop?" I filed her laugh next to his shoe print. Evidence matters. Facts matter. Dignity matters most when people think you lost it. I breathed in the air conditioning taste of money. I breathed out the kind of focus you feel before the starting gun. My knuckles loosened. My jaw unlocked. Tonight wasn't about a room. It was about the story certain people tell themselves to feel tall. I was about to edit their story with receipts. The clerk's smile hardened into something thin like tape sealing a box. The manager, Derek, leaned into his performance. He wasn't serving guests. He was auditioning for authority. "Look around," he said, sweeping an arm at the chandeliers. "This is not for everyone. Not for you." 2 women in gowns paused mid-whisper. A man in a $1,000 suit stalled his call. The lobby tilted like a jury box, filling with people who needed no evidence because the verdict felt good. Insecure people love certainty. It saves them from thinking. I didn't offer them anger. Anger would feed their story. I offered procedure. I tapped the confirmation screen. Reservation, penthouse paid. The clerk peered as if my phone might bite her. "Anyone can Photoshop," Derek said, louder now, harvesting laughs. The laugh he got told me everything. Some people rent morality for the price of belonging. My bag creaked when I set it down. The frayed strap tugged at old insecurities. Every door I'd entered where someone decided it wasn't mine. That ache rose. I set it on a shelf. I've learned to make discomfort report for duty. "ID," the clerk said, as if the word proved she was serious. I slid my license across the counter. She lifted it to the light, smelled the plastic like truth has a scent. "Could be fake," she announced, recruiting strangers into her play. Nods spread because nodding is warm. Overhead, the clock clicked toward midnight. The Yamamoto call wasn't a hope. It was an engine already running. 8 minutes to close what took 6 months to open. Time is the fairest judge in any room. On the sofa, a girl whispered to her phone, "I'm live." Viewer numbers ticked like a Geiger counter. Radiation was spreading. Derek leaned closer, breath like stale coffee and certainty. "We host CEOs," he said, enunciating as if I didn't speak English. "Diplomats. Real money." His gaze combed my shirt, hair, shoes, hunting proof that his bias was a fact. Confirmation bias sells everywhere and ships overnight. He found my sneakers and lit up with triumph. "Those shoes tell me you take the bus." The clerk laughed. The couple smirked. The suited man looked away, guilty without a crime. Agreement is easy. Courage costs. I let silence turn the volume up on his cruelty. People will often hear themselves if you hold them to the echo. The live stream leaned in. Comments stacked fast when injustice is recognizable and shareable. My phone buzzed. "Assistant, call in 8. Ready?" Yes, I was ready the moment he stepped on my card. Old cuts make excellent compasses. "Cancel this phantom booking," the clerk said to Derek, not to me. Fingers flew, the way people type when they think cruelty is policy. "Open it for someone appropriate." Appropriate is a velvet word stretched over wire. "Stop," I said softly. She didn't. Derek smirked, mistaking confidence for correctness. The security chief appeared from a column's shadow. Tall, steady nameplate Marcus. The crowd relaxed. Authority had arrived to carry away the discomfort they'd helped create. "Problem?" Marcus asked. Derek presented me like evidence. Fraud, fake card, fake email, entitlement. He listed accusations like appetizers and expected the room to order all of them. Marcus looked at me. Fear wanted me to perform innocence. I didn't. "Before you do anything," I said, calm, "check your handbook." Section 14.3, he paused. Derek scoffed. The live stream surged. The lobby had chosen its jury. I had chosen the law. And the clock kept walking toward midnight, patient, merciless, fair. 8 minutes is nothing until you need all of it. The red digits blinked. 11:52. I pictured the Tokyo boardroom. Glass walls, neat stacks of contracts, directors who never waste a minute, a translator who hears hesitation like thunder. My voice needed to arrive clean. Derek tried to rent those minutes. "Private property," he announced, loud enough to collect applause. Confidence looked good on him until you read the fine print. Counterfeit. I grounded myself in facts I could touch. Phone, confirmation, license. The card warmed in my bag like a coal. The live stream's red light glowed across the marble. Fear and excitement share a heartbeat. The lobby pulsed with both. Marcus opened the staff app. Rules can be shields or weapons depending on who holds them. Section 14.3, I said. My tone said I knew the ending. My face said I'd wait for them to catch up. The clerk typed harder, noise to drown doubt. "I'm canceling," she announced to impress Derek. "Open the room." "Stop typing," Marcus said, finally a leader. Keys went quiet. The couple sat up. The man in the suit ended his call. Derek laughed to fill the space. "Classic scam," he said. "Legal words, fake documents." He gestured at my bag. A real guest wouldn't carry that. He meant poor. He meant black. He meant out of place. I cataloged the room. Chandelier's sterile light. Marble reflects everything. Cameras, 2 red dots. Witnesses. A dozen here, thousands behind a phone. Evidence wasn't against me. Evidence was me. 11:54, 6 minutes. The Yamamoto deal meant factories with fair practices and profit sharing that would ripple into families. The contract had my fingerprints. I wasn't letting a stranger's insecurity smear them. Additional documentation? Marcus asked, building a bridge. I opened my portfolio. Derek rolled his eyes. I slid 1 page, reservation on corporate letterhead, an internal contact who outranked anyone here. Marcus read, his jaw unclenched. The live stream number jumped. Comments flashed, discrimination, call corporate, don't back down. Tonight the crowd wanted change. Derek dialed. Chicago PD, he announced. Suspected fraud. The clerk exhaled like sirens could absolve her. Spectators looked excited and ashamed at once. 11:56, 4 minutes. Marcus, I said, read it. He did, out loud. Section 14.3. Discriminatory behavior, immediate termination, personal liability for reputational damage. Derek's smile faltered. Shame hates mirrors. Policy is polished glass. Cancel nothing, Marcus told the clerk. We're verifying. She froze. Energy rewrote itself. The live stream cooled from outrage to anticipation. 11:57, 3 minutes. My assistant, they're early, ready? Me, ready. I slid the portfolio closed. Curiosity is a lever. You get more movement if you pull at the right time. Derek tried again. This is a 5-star establishment, he repeated as if repetition could turn bias into policy. We are not a community center. He needed a hierarchy to feel tall. I let him talk. With 2 minutes to go, I touched the card in my bag and promised the red digits. When you turn, I turn the room. The countdown continued, patient as gravity, precise as consequence. The lobby was designed to decide before people did. Cold light polished everything into mirrors. The desk sat an inch too high, so you had to look up to be heard. Architecture can profile. You learn that by standing on the wrong side of the counter and feeling a room measure you. Derek used the space like a stage. He leaned into the light, stole inches from the counter, filled silence with sentences that sounded like policy and smelled like fear. "We host Fortune 500 CEOs, he repeated, needing luxury to be a wall, not a welcome. I kept my voice low. Predators chase movement. Let them run past while you stand where truth is bolted down. Reservation, I said again, more for the camera than for him. The stream drank in the contrast, his volume, my calm, his certainty, my documentation. The clerk's giggles cracked. Performances tire when applause fades. In her screen, I caught my face, tired, focused, unconvinced this would end in anything but receipts. Small motions, steady big hearts. I tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "Do you know what those shoes say?" Derek asked, inviting the crowd to fill the blank. People love tests with answers they already believe. I thought about every rule the world tried to put in my body. Don't speak first, smile so they relax, apologize for existing. I declined the curriculum. Marcus kept reading. He wasn't fast, but he was thorough, the difference between panic and discipline. "Let's slow down," he said. The sentence landed like a sandbag. Derek scoffed at gravity. "Call corporate," someone whispered. "Call the news," someone else said. The livestream number climbed. Outrage has its algorithm, but under it a quieter question formed. What if we're wrong about her? 11:58, 2 minutes. I took inventory. Anger, hot, useful if aimed. Fear, cold, whispering old humiliations. Insecurity, asking if a deal might collapse because strangers needed a story. Beneath all of it, a quiet engine, purpose. Derek pointed to my jeans, my bag, my hair. Professional standards, he said, wanting standards to mean costume. People shouldn't have to perform to be respected. "Open your bag," the clerk said, reaching across the counter. "No," I said. "A boundary is a door you lock with a syllable." Marcus lifted his eyes. Derek smiled, mistaking refusal for guilt. "People who crave control prefer theater to truth. Theater has better lighting." "Read the confirmation number," I told the clerk. The system acknowledged my name with machine indifference. She frowned. "It matches," Derek waved it off. He needed the illusion more than the facts. Profiling is the need to keep someone small to feel safe. 11:59, 1 minute. I inhaled 5, exhaled 5. Counting replaces panic with math. "Marcus," I said. "We're almost out of time." Decision squared his shoulders. "We do not cancel anything," he told the clerk. "We verify and document." Someone clapped once, then stopped. Derek moved closer, bargaining with the narrative he'd chosen. "If you just tell us who you really are." "I did," I said. "You decided it wasn't enough." The live stream hushed. A city leaned toward its screens. 12 Sao. Somewhere in Tokyo, a boardroom phone began to ring. I touched the card in my bag to remind myself that stories are contracts or drafts. I chose revision. Even Derek felt the pressure change. The clerk's fingers hovered, unsure which future to type. "Answer your call," Marcus said, not an order, permission. His eyes were steady now. The crowd braced for spectacle and prepared to witness consequences instead. The design of the night was about to change. A red dot can change a room. When the stream hit 4 digits, the room shifted. People straightened, spines arranged into innocence. When the world watches, everybody edits. "Chicago, look at this," the girl whispered. Comments turned into weather. "Stay strong," name badges, tag corporate, call a lawyer, screen recording. Derek noticed the audience and grew louder. "We safeguard guests from scams," he announced to phones more than to me. He needed the internet to co-sign his certainty. The clerk arranged a neutral face. "Please don't quote me." Marcus ignored the camera, checked the handbook, then the people. "Verify," he said, building a small island of process in a rising sea of spectacle. The stream loved the recipe. Ticking clock, power imbalance, refusal to shrink. Outrage is rocket fuel. Calm is ballast. I chose ballast. Tag Sterling, someone typed. Already did. New thread, call local news. Where's the supervisor? The hive mind learned to use its sting. 12th hour. My phone lit. Tokyo calling. I let it buzz twice, then answered on speaker with a quiet yes. The lobby hushed. "Ms. Richardson," the translator said, "the board is present." "Please hold 60 seconds, I replied. "We are verifying a hospitality matter." Confusion trimmed into professionalism. Derek blinked at the word board, then reached for volume. "End that call. You're not a guest." Control without authority is a tantrum in a suit. Marcus set his phone down. "Derek," he said softly, "follow policy." Soft moves, heavy things without dropping them. Chat pivoted from fury to receipts. "Policy link?" one asked. "Section 14.3, another replied. Screenshots appeared as if the internet had hands. I laid a page on the counter. Reservation with internal contact. The camera caught the letterhead. "Not Photoshop," someone typed. "Zoom the watermark." Strangers became analysts in seconds. Derek tried sarcasm. "What's next, you own the place?" The laugh didn't land. The crowd had crossed the line where jokes stopped being safe. Marcus read the policy aloud. Immediate termination. Personal liability. Dry words cut when denial is thick. Icons flooded the chat. Pressure makes truth surface. I looked at the clerk. "You said my card had diseases." "I'm sorry," she whispered. Real apologies are quiet. Derek's phone buzzed. Color drained. Corporate messages travel fast. He silenced it and failed to look unfazed. "He's getting texts," the chat noted. "Document everything," Marcus told the clerk. The stream mirrored him. Timestamp, names, actions. An audit assembled in the comments. I returned to the call. "Thank you for holding," I said. The board did not hang up. "Patience there is calculation." Derek leaned in. "If you'd told us who you really are, this wouldn't have happened." "That sentence is why it happened," I said. The line landed. The chat shifted from spectacle to instruction. File complaint, request incident number, don't leave the counter, ask for names. The hive taught itself policy while staff caught up. Marcus nodded, an inner argument ending. "We will not cancel," he said. "We will not call police without cause. We will verify identity and treat the guest with dignity. Dignity is small until it's missing. Then it fills the room." The stream took a collective inhale. Night switched tracks. The red dot burned. I let it see my face, decided. "Tokyo," I said into the phone. "I'm ready." Marcus arrived like a door closing on chaos. Tall and steady, uniform pressed, eyes doing inventory. He took in the scuffed card, the blinking clock, the live phone, the clerk's thin smile. He looked last at me, and something in his face said he had seen nights go wrong and remembered each one. Derek talked as if words were handcuffs. "Escort her out," he ordered. Fraud. Possible theft. Time was the most expensive thing in the room. I had minutes left and Derek wanted them. I didn't step back. "Before you act," I told Marcus, "document names, actions, reasons. Calm isn't softness. It is sharp enough to cut a script apart." Marcus's hand hovered over his radio, then lowered. "Let's slow down," he said, not for Derek, for everyone pretending they hadn't been watching. "Ma'am, tell me your name and why you're here." "My name is Maya," I said. "I have a paid reservation. Penthouse." I let the word land, not as a flex, but as a fact that irritated every bias in the carpet. The clerk flinched. Derek smirked. The couple in evening wear looked at the ceiling. The girl with the phone whispered, "Security is here. He looks reasonable." I handed Marcus my license and the open confirmation. He read instead of reacting. Derek hated that. "Officer," Derek pushed. "Policy says we protect the property. She has a fake card and fake email." He kept saying fake as if repetition made it real. Marcus studied the license hologram, the watermark, the reservation number, cross-checking with the system. "It matches," he said quietly. The room shifted 2 degrees cooler. The live chat noticed. He said matches. Derek's smile turned brittle. "Anyone can forge. Look at her bag." "My bag holds my work," I said. "Not my worth." I kept my eyes on Marcus. "If you remove me without cause, your report will be Exhibit A. Ask yourself who signs it and who reads it later." That sentence placed a future on the table. Marcus weighed it. I saw training compete with pressure. Saw a man decide which part of his job mattered tonight. Derek leaned in, breath coffee sour. "We don't need a lecture." He wanted spectacle to continue. He wanted fear to fold me. "Fear knows my address. It doesn't get to live here." Radio your supervisor, I suggested to Marcus. Tell them the guest invoked Section 14.3 on discriminatory conduct. I watched his pupils widen at the section number. Derek barked a laugh. YouTube lawyer, he muttered. Marcus straightened. We'll follow the handbook, he said. The clerk's fingers paused over the keyboard like birds mid-flight. The girl's viewer count leaped. Strangers texted each other. They're checking the handbook. Every second had weight now. I felt them stacked behind me, a wall I would either stand against or be pressed into. If you're going to remove me, do it on the record, I said. If you're going to treat me as a guest, do that on the record too. Marcus nodded once, like someone who had been waiting for a line that made sense. Nobody's being removed, he announced. We document first, the room exhaled. It wasn't victory. It was a platform sturdy enough to hold what needed to happen next. Marcus scrolled the digital handbook with his thumb, eyes reading out loud even before his mouth did. Policy has a sound, dry, precise, unafraid of feelings. Section 14.3. Any employee engaging in discriminatory behavior based on race, gender, religion, or perceived economic status faces immediate termination without severance and may be held personally liable for reputational damages. The words didn't raise their voice. They didn't need to. The clerk's face drained. Derek's certainty blinked. The couple's hands found each other. The lobby began to remember what rules are for. Derek tried to laugh it off. She's gaming the system. She looked poor. That's not discrimination, that's common sense. He said it with the confidence of someone who has never had to read policy as if his job depended on it. Common sense is not policy, Marcus replied. He held the screen between them. Policy is policy. The live chat slowed from outrage into focus. Screenshots flew through the comments. Strangers cited sentences as if building a case from 1,000 kitchen tables. Fear changed shape in the room. From my fear of being pushed out to Derek's fear of being pulled under by his own actions. I didn't gloat. Gloating is a leak. Power runs out of it. I stood on the small square of floor I had earned with documentation and timing, and let their own handbook do the teaching. Sarah, Marcus said to the clerk, note the time, note the guest's name, note the invocation of 14.3, and stop any cancellation until we confirm identity beyond doubt. She swallowed and typed. Keys suddenly sounded like accountability. Derek pointed at my shoes again, a drowning man reaching for the same broken plank. Look at her, he insisted. She doesn't belong here. Belonging, I said, is not a look. It's a record. I tapped the screen with the reservation number. This is mine. Marcus nodded, slow but certain. We have to treat this as a discrimination risk, he said to Derek, not unkindly but finally. Foreshadowing isn't just for stories. It's for consequences. Everyone felt the line he had crossed even if they didn't have the courage to name it yet. My phone buzzed, Tokyo on hold. I needed 60 more seconds and a clear runway. The handbook had given me both. Not a victory, but a promise that the next page might turn the way it should. The revolving door sighed and a man in a navy suit stepped through with winter air clinging to him. He scanned the scene, card, crowd, camera, clock, and read it in one sweep. He moved toward us without asking permission. Is there a problem with a paying guest? He asked, voice even. Derek stiffened. Sir, private matter. That phrase tries to shrink public harm into a broom closet. The man smiled without warmth. You're on at least 3 phones and 1 live stream. Privacy left 10 minutes ago. He lifted a key card. Room 2847, 3 nights. Platinum member. This looks bad. The clerk started to speak, then stopped as if the word apology had gotten stuck behind her teeth. The man turned to me. Are you okay? A simple question is a rope thrown toward dignity. I will be, I said. They're verifying. I nodded toward Marcus, who met the man's eyes and didn't flinch. Men who've had to make hard calls recognize each other. What's your name? The man asked. Maya, I said. I'm Daniel, he replied. If you need a witness statement, I'll write one now. He pulled a pen from his pocket as if testimony were standard luggage. Derek tried authority again. Sir, we don't need... Daniel held up a palm. You need better training, tighter policy, and less ego. The live stream lit up with hearts. Daniel took out his phone and opened a notes app. He spoke as he typed. 11:47 p.m. Black female guest with valid reservation is accused of fraud based on appearance. Staff mocks and attempts to cancel room without confirming. Security references policy that forbids discrimination. Manager resists. He turned the screen so the camera could see. A small murmur moved through the crowd. Send that to corporate, someone commented. Already did, someone else replied. The internet can be messy, but sometimes it is muscle. Marcus nodded to Daniel. Appreciate the statement. A truce formed between men who both believed in paper trails. Derek's phone buzzed again. He checked it and paled. Corporate texts ripple like cold. Everything's fine, he announced to the lobby like a parent insisting a bleeding knee is nothing. Nobody believed him. Daniel angled his body slightly, shielding me from Derek's stare the way you angle your car to block a reckless driver. It wasn't dramatic. It was practiced. You holding up? He asked again, low enough that it belonged to me. I've survived worse, I said because I had and because saying it reminded my spine. The clock blinked toward midnight as if it too were waiting for a reveal. The livestream count climbed past a number that meant local news would notice. The story had left the hotel. Marcus, Daniel said, you have what you need. Almost, Marcus replied. One more confirmation. Then to me, thank you for your patience. Patience wasn't what I felt. Discipline was. Derek stepped back and folded his arms like a barricade. Every time he looked at me, he renamed me into something safe to disrespect. Daniel didn't rename me. He believed the facts in front of him, and that belief steadied the room in ways a badge hadn't. Anything else I can do? Daniel asked. Yes, I said. Stay. He did. Sometimes the most unexpected ally is the one who doesn't leave when the room gets honest. Phones vibrated like nervous birds. Notifications stitched a new layer of sound into the lobby. Slack pings, email chimes, the buzz of a group chat titled Night Shift. The clerk read a message and went still. Derek read one and lost color. Marcus read one and stood straighter. Corporate had entered the chat. The livestream comments changed from local to national in tone. A blogger with a blue check chimed in. A civil rights attorney asked for the hotel's legal counsel email. A reporter DM'd the streamer for permission to use the footage. The lobby's mirrors reflected not just faces now, but outcomes. Derek tried to seize control. Everything is under control, he announced, which is what people say when everything isn't. He moved to the keyboard, but Marcus placed a hand near the spacebar, not touching, simply present. We're not canceling anything, Marcus said. We're finalizing verification. Read this, the clerk whispered to Derek, sliding her phone across. He scanned the corporate message, jaw tightening. Words like monitoring, escalation, and review are small until they arrive with timestamps. Daniel spoke softly toward the camera. For anyone watching, record the names on tags and the exact statement said. Facts are our friends, the stream obeyed. Screenshots multiplied, name badges, timestamps, policy quotes. I took a breath and called Tokyo back. Still on the line, the translator said. We are patient. Thank you, I replied. I am concluding a compliance matter. In boardrooms, the word compliance opens doors and moves chairs. A new email chimed on the front desk screen. Corporate PR requesting a status update within 10 minutes. Derek swallowed hard. We should move her along, he insisted, clinging to motion as if speed were solution. No, Marcus said. We should move correctly. The clerk looked at me, then at the stream, then back to me. Your reservation shows paid by corporate account, she said, voice small. 6 nights, penthouse. Her eyes glossed with what lives between fear and regret. Thank you, I said. Not sugar, not spite. Just acknowledgement. The live stream loved receipts more than apologies. But both matter when you're rebuilding what you burned. Derek's phone rang. He stepped aside and turned away, but the marble bounced his words back. No, it's fine, he lied. Silence answered him. He hung up and tried again at the room. We expect a certain standard, he said. Standards are good. Weaponized standards are not. Daniel stood steady as a lamppost. Standards start with how you treat people, he said. The clerk nodded almost invisibly, like a leaf agreeing with gravity. Corporate sent another message. Do not deny service while facts are unclear. Document, escalate. Avoid language that could be perceived as discriminatory. Derek read it and flinched as if words were stones. Marcus looked at me and then at the camera. We will follow policy, he said, for corporate, for the stream, for the future deposition that wouldn't happen because he was preventing it now. Prevention never trends, but tonight it might. The livestream count crossed a line that changes how companies think. Hashtags shifted from anger to action. A city decided to watch the next 10 minutes like a verdict. The chandeliers hummed. The clock blinked. Corporate eyes were wide open, and so were the public's. The red digits flipped to 11:59 and held there like a breath inside a chest. 1 minute can be a lifetime if you load it with meaning. Mine held a deal in Tokyo, a reservation in Chicago, and a dozen strangers deciding if dignity was conditional. Marcus squared his shoulders. Daniel stayed to my right, the quiet geometry of protection. The clerk's fingers hovered over the keys, waiting for the next right thing. Derek's jaw worked like he was chewing on the last bite of a bad story. 30 seconds, the translator said over the line, polite and relentless. Understood, I replied, eyes never leaving the desk. We're concluding verification now. I kept my voice even so the room would borrow it. Identity confirmed, Marcus said, reading the final cross-check. The sentence slid through the lobby like a key in a lock. The clerk exhaled. Someone whispered, "Thank God." The livestream chat fired confetti emojis as if code could clap. Derek tried to salvage pride from rubble. "If you had told us who you were..." "I did," I said, not raising my voice because truth doesn't need volume, only room. "You decided it wasn't enough." 15 seconds, Tokyo breathed. I watched the card reader light green. The printer spit a receipt with the dry warmth of a fresh fact. Marcus placed the key card on the counter like a ceremony. "Penthouse," he said. The word sounded different now. Less marble, more justice. 10, the translator counted. 9. Time is fair, which is why it scares people who rely on chaos. I picked up the key, picked up my phone, picked up the part of myself that refuses to shrink. "To everyone watching," Daniel said into the stream, "remember what changed this. Policy, patience, proof." The chat replied with 3 words. "We saw everything." 3, the translator said. 2. Derek stared at the key as if it were a verdict. It wasn't. The verdict was how the room had changed because it chose to look at itself. 1. I stepped back from the counter. "Tokyo," I said, answering clean. "Thank you for holding. I'm ready." The lobby, for once, was quiet enough to hear the click when dignity slid back into place. I opened the leather portfolio like a quiet door and set the first page on the counter. The paper didn't shout. It didn't need to. Numbers have a spine. Monthly revenue down, occupancy below industry baseline, guest satisfaction, bleeding decimals like a slow leak you pretend not to hear. The lobby leaned in because proof is a magnet. I slid the next page forward. Complaint summaries in plain text, dates, badge numbers, short quotes captured after long nights. Treated like I didn't belong. Manager mocked my clothes. Assumed I couldn't pay. No adjectives, just records. Derek smirked at the first sheet and stopped smirking by the third. The clerk swallowed when she saw her own initials in a margin. Marcus read every line, lips moving, the way careful people memorize before they speak. I didn't look at the live stream, but I felt it gathering, like wind on the other side of glass. The room wanted spectacle. I offered sequence. Calendar entries tied to shift rosters, training overdue logs. Mystery guest evaluations with underlines so neat they almost felt kind. One page showed turnover like a spinning door that never slowed. Another showed refunds, room comps, late-night apologies typed in tired hands. The older couple shifted. Uncomfortable not with me, but with recognition. They had seen this shape before, smaller, easier to ignore. Daniel held his pen like a witness holds a railing on a ship in rough water. Derek tried for a joke and found none. "Anyone can print things," he said, reaching for my paper as if grabbing could make numbers lie. Marcus placed 2 fingers on the stack, a gentle stop sign. "We'll handle the documents," he told him. His tone said this was no longer Derek's show. I laid down the staffing dashboard, bars falling where morale had fallen first. New hire, quit by week 3. Guest reviews flagged for tone. Words like condescending, dismissive now made me feel small. The clerk closed her eyes for a second too long. I could have pushed then. Instead, I let the pages do their work. Proof doesn't need a raised voice. It needs a clear table. A receipt printer coughed from the back office. Somewhere a phone vibrated with an email none of us would like. I placed the final page of the first stack. A risk analysis from legal projected exposure if patterns continued. Quiet gasps punched holes in the room's confidence. Derek stood there with his arms crossed around a life that was shrinking. The livestream comment feed slowed from outrage to attention. You could feel the algorithm handing the mic to accountability. "These are not opinions," I said, finally letting my voice touch the air. "These are your own records, pulled this week, time-stamped, backed up." I tapped the dates. What happens next isn't about how you feel about me. It's about how your choices fit your policies. I slid the portfolio an inch closer to Marcus. He met my eyes and nodded. A small promise that the ground under us was changing from marble to law. I took out one last page and set it down like a calm heartbeat. Then I placed my card on top of it. Black stock, simple letters, nothing decorative to hide behind. My name, my firm, the title people whisper like it makes me a different species. Derek stared at it the way people stare at a mirror they don't want to own. The clerk looked from the name to my face and back, as if a magic trick needed explanation. Marcus didn't flinch. He just waited. I turned my tablet around. The corporate site glowed clean in corporate blue. Leadership page. Executive structure. A headshot that looked like me when I'd had sleep. My name under majority shareholder. The acquisition line item, date, valuation, percentage, sat there in small, neat type, as if it had never needed to be read by people trying to decide whether I was real. The lobby went quiet enough to hear the air vents hum. Daniel exhaled a sound that meant relief and disbelief had shaken hands. On the stream, hearts and question marks raced each other. Someone typed plot twist, but this wasn't a plot twist to me. It was simply the moment where a door you knew about swings open for everyone else. Derek's jaw worked. The words he wanted wouldn't line up. That can't... He pointed at the screen like pointing could push pixels back into safe shapes. "It can," I said, not unkindly. And it did. I didn't add the rest. That power isn't a costume. That wealth doesn't always dress to reassure gatekeepers. That respect is not a perk you unlock with a black card, but a baseline you owe to human beings. The clerk's eyes watered. She didn't wipe them. Marcus cleared his throat as if stepping into a new job description. Daniel angled himself between me and Derek again, gentle but firm. People always show you who they are when power changes hands. Corporate messages started landing like rain. Urgent status. Confirm incident details. Escalate to PR. Phones lit up across the desk. The chandelier light jittered with camera exposure, and for a second the room felt like a courtroom and a classroom at the same time. I heard my assistant's text vibrate in my bag. "Board ready when you are." I texted back, 30 seconds. Derek finally found his words and tried to drag them uphill. "If you had told us who you were..." "I did," I said. "I told you my name and my reservation. You didn't recognize value because it didn't look like you expected. That's the point of tonight." I didn't soften it. Sometimes the truth has to sit bare to do its work. Daniel spoke into the lens, not dramatic, just clear. To everyone watching, note what changed the room. Not anger, not shouting. Receipts, policy, ownership. The stream slowed its emojis and started saving clips. People at home were building their own portfolios out of ours. I picked up my card and slid it back into the portfolio, not to hide it, but because the performance was over. What came next would not be applause. It would be decisions. Silence widened, the kind that makes people hear their own pulse and their own choices. The live viewers held their breath with us. The clerk's hands hovered over nothing, as if she didn't trust them yet. Derek stared at the invisible line he had stepped across and measured the distance back. There was none. Marcus stood with stillness that only shows up after you decide who you're going to be in a room. Daniel's shoulder brushed mine, a human anchor. I let the quiet do half the work. Shame wants noise to drown itself. Accountability is best served in low volume. I looked at Derek, then at the clerk, then at Marcus, counting not enemies but responsibilities. I thought of every person who had walked into this lobby and shrunk because a stranger needed them small. I thought of the boardroom waiting across the Pacific, of factories we would build where paychecks were fair and safety wasn't a slogan. 1,000 miles of consequence sat in 1 minute of air. Here's what happens next, I said, but not yet. I let the sentence hang so it could gather weight. Daniel glanced at the clock and smiled without humor. Even time felt like it had opinions tonight. Derek opened his mouth and closed it. The clerk wiped one tear and didn't apologize for it. Marcus shifted his stance, not defensive, not aggressive, prepared. The live stream quieted. Comments turned to dots waiting to become words. I felt my own old insecurities knocking, asking to be heard. The memory of hands waving me away, the taste of being judged before I spoke. I acknowledged them and did not invite them to speak for me. I took one breath as if it might be the first breath of the hotel's new life. I took one more because calm is a fuel and I would need it. Then I set my palm on the portfolio, on the cold facts, and gave the room the decency it had tried to take from me. "You will get a choice," I said, "and it will be a real one." I connected my tablet to the lobby screen. The hotel logo appeared, then the title slide I'd built for internal use, never expecting to deliver it under a chandelier with strangers watching. The first graph rose and fell like an EKG, revenue over 12 months. The room saw the flat line where service had died and didn't know it yet. I did not narrate with heat. I narrated with dates, numbers, benchmarks. "We're down 600,000 over the year," I said. "Guest satisfaction at 2.3 out of 5. Industry peers at 4.2. Turnover at 89%. That's not normal churn. That's people escaping." Slide 2 showed complaint categories and color bars that didn't need legend lines. Service tone, assumptions about ability to pay, demeaning comments. The clerk blinked hard when I read exact quotes. I didn't say her name. I didn't need to. Slide 3. Training overdue, certifications lapsed, the simple maintenance of standards ignored until the machine shook. Legal estimates, I said, and the air cooled. Projected exposure if behavior continues. Settlement figures not to scare, but to measure. The older couple flinched. They weren't angry at me. They were angry at the story they'd been sitting inside and calling ambiance. Then I turned the slide to people. Night manager, guest complaints tied to ID 4471. Derek's badge number looks small next to a big bar. 17 written warnings. Coaching sessions documented. Last review at 1.8. I kept my voice level the way a doctor names a diagnosis. Assistant manager ID 4203. 19 complaints. 7 failed mystery evaluations out of 8. Diversity training overdue by 8 months. The clerk's lips parted in a silent "oh." Unkindness would have been easy here. I declined it. Facts can stand by themselves if you let them. I did not spare myself. I put up the acquisition slide. Ownership changed hands in March, I said. We promised the market a cultural reset. This location is our highest risk property. Tonight is our public low point and our starting line. The live stream hummed with a different energy now. Less rage, more purpose. People typed plans into their own lives in the comments. What to say, what to record, where to send it. Marcus stepped a half step forward, not to block anyone, but to shoulder some of the room's weight. Daniel spoke into the phone. Notice how numbers make shame specific. He wasn't wrong. Shame without a plan is a circle. Shame with data can be a door. The final slide was not punishment. It was a map. Immediate actions. External consultant within 48 hours. Guest dignity initiative with QR codes routed to corporate. Audio-enabled cameras in public spaces with strict privacy rules posted at every entrance. Monthly bias training tied to raises. Complaint-triggered audits by outside counsel. Anonymous reporting for staff who see what guests feel. I looked at the clerk. She looked back and nodded once. Tiny, brave. I looked at Derek. He stared at the floor that had reflected him all night. I looked at Marcus. He met the moment with a steady yes. The lobby had started the night as a stage for ego. It had become by inches a classroom for change. I closed the portfolio and let my hand rest flat on its cover. "You have 3 doors," I said, speaking to the people who had shaped this night and would shape what followed. "Door 1, resignation effective now. You leave quietly. Your reference says dates and duties, nothing more. You get to rebuild somewhere else without this attached to your name. Door 2, termination for cause. This goes on your record. No reference. Potential civil action for reputational damage. Door 3, full investigation. 3 to 6 months. Interviews. Depositions. Your name's living online with this night attached forever. You will still be paid during review, but you will sit in the long shadow you cast tonight." I didn't raise my tone on the consequences. I let them land as they were. The live stream waited like a jury that had promised to listen. Derek's throat worked. Pride battled survival, and survival started to win. The clerk's eyes flicked to him, then to me, then to the exit, as if measuring escape routes and realizing only one led forward. Marcus did not move, and in not moving, gave everyone else permission to think instead of react. You have 60 seconds, I said. Not a gimmick. A boundary. Dragging pain is another form of cruelty. The clock over the elevator chimed at the top of the hour as if it agreed. Daniel wrote in his notes without looking up. He already knew what mattered. Derek tried to speak and failed, then tried again. I groaned. If I resign, do I get to say it was for personal reasons? His voice had lost its theater. You can say nothing at all, I said. That is what a neutral reference costs. Silence where it could have been noise. He stared at the marble, at his own reflection, and finally at me. I resign, he said, voice small, choice large. He pulled his badge free and set it down. It made a sound that felt like something ending clean. I turned to the assistant manager. She was already crying, but not the kind that asks for pity. The kind that admits truth. I resign, she whispered, then steadier. I resign and I'm sorry. I nodded once. Sorry does not fix harm. It opens a door to work. The clerk flinched when my gaze met hers. I want to stay, she said, voice shaking, and learn. I won't pretend I didn't go along. I did. I was wrong. I want the training. I want to be the person who speaks up next time. That's the answer I had built the last hour to allow. 90 days probation, I said. You'll report to a manager I trust. You will do the work or you will leave. No middle. She breathed a yes you could almost see. I looked to Marcus last. I want to help fix it, he said before I could ask. I'll hold the line. He already had. I picked up Derek's badge and handed it to Marcus. Collect their keys, I said. Escort them out with dignity. Then come back. We have work to do. The live stream flooded with quiet claps and long comments that sounded like relief learning to stand. I unplugged the tablet, slid the portfolio closed, and answered the boardroom waiting across the ocean. My voice was steady when I said, we begin reform now. Sarah stood there with her badge in her palm like it weighed a pound. Her voice came out small at first, then found a spine. I laughed when he mocked you. I wanted to fit in. I wanted him to like me. And the second she said wanted, the lobby understood the engine under her choices. Hunger for approval dressed up as policy. She didn't skip the ugly parts. I told myself you were lying because that made me safe. I told myself canceling your room was protecting the hotel. I knew it wasn't. She swallowed, then squared up. I humiliated a guest. I ignored the reservation. I helped block access to what you paid for. No excuses. I want to learn. I want to be the person who speaks up when the room is wrong. Fear flickered in her eyes, but it wasn't fear of losing the job. It was fear of staying the same. That's the fear that saves people. Marcus cleared his throat, not to fill the air, but to claim his part in it. I hesitated because I felt something wasn't right. I should have stepped in faster. My job is protection, and protection without dignity is just control. He looked at me like a soldier looking at a map. I will hold the line going forward. I will make policy the floor, not the ceiling. He didn't perform. He promised. Daniel spoke softly, like a witness who knew the value of plain words. I travel 200 days a year. You get numb to small harms. You tell yourself it's not your fight. Tonight I watched a woman use facts like a flashlight. It made me realize my silence had shape. I'll write the statement. I'll send it to corporate. I'll stand here until you don't need me to. Derek tried to build a wall out of sentences. I have a mortgage. I've been loyal. I never meant harm. His eyes kept sliding past me, searching for a door that wasn't there. Meaning well is a blanket too small to cover what actions leave exposed. He tried one last story, if you had just told us. That story died in the air between us. Silence is a better teacher than a speech. He looked at his feet and saw the one truth he had avoided. The hotel hadn't made him cruel. It had given his cruelty a schedule. I drew a line that was not a threat, but a boundary. You can't come back across this behavior again. Not with a new name tag. Not with a new haircut. Not with better words. The only way back is through different choices. Measured over time, checked by people who aren't afraid to tell you no. Sarah nodded hard. Marcus nodded once. Daniel nodded with relief. Derek's shoulders sagged. Not with defeat, but with gravity finally doing what gravity does. The clerk wiped her eyes and whispered the question many people never ask aloud. Do I deserve to stay after what I did? Deserve is a dangerous word. I answered with a rule instead. Deserve follows the work. If you do the work, the door stays open. If you don't, it closes. She breathed out like someone who had been holding that breath all year. I'll do the work. Then she surprised herself by saying it again, louder. "I'll do the work." The lobby heard the difference. I clicked the presentation remote and the room braced, not for punishment, but for structure. System change is the opposite of vibes. It is calendars, checklists, dashboards, and consequences that don't care if you had a bad night's sleep. I began with the heart and moved to the bones. "Immediate leadership assignment," I said. "Intervention manager landing at 8 a.m. Authority to restructure shifts, approve retraining, and pause promotions. Her name is Kesha. She turns properties around without violence or excuses." Sarah's breath hitched. Hope is scary when you've never had to hold it. Next, the Guest Dignity Initiative. Not a poster, a system. QR codes in every public space that feed directly to corporate, not local managers. Guests can report bias in real time. Anonymous option, photo upload, auto timestamp. Automatic incident number texted back. If you touch someone's dignity, the system touches back faster than your pride. Marcus nodded. You could almost see the plan fitting into his hands. "We will install audio-enabled cameras in public areas with clear signage and privacy rules." I continued. "Not to spy, to protect. Recordings are reviewed by a third party when a complaint triggers an audit. HR doesn't get to bury what it doesn't want to see." Derek stared at the floor. "Secrets don't like light. Monthly training, not a one and done. Unconscious bias, de-escalation, luxury hospitality standards. Quizzes that actually measure learning. Passing is tied to raises. Failing triggers coaching, then reassignment, then separation if behavior repeats. This is not a TED Talk, this is a job. Mystery guest program returns with teeth. Not 2 visits a year. 2 visits a month, rotating demographics, written narratives, and body language notes. Scores pinned to team dashboards. Celebrate high scores in public. Fix low scores in private the first time and formally the second time." Sarah pressed her lips together. "Praise and correction in the right order build muscle instead of fear. Reporting for staff becomes safer. Anonymity protected by encrypted Dropboxes reviewed by external ombuds. If you see a guest shamed or profiled, report. If your supervisor punishes you for reporting, they are gone. 1 sentence. No loopholes." Marcus's jaw set. He understood the weight of that promise. Finally, accountability metrics on a single page every Monday. Complaints opened, complaints closed, average time to response, training completed, promotion pipeline by demographics, turnover map, legal exposure meter trending down. Numbers don't love you back, but they will warn you when you're drifting. I set the remote down and faced a room that had spent a year avoiding itself. The plan did not ask for belief. It asked for compliance until belief grew from results. We did not sleep. Reform never starts in the morning. It starts in the mess. While the live stream cooled and the lobby emptied, we built the first bricks. Marcus drafted the incident report with timestamps, names, and actions, not adjectives. Sarah printed apology letters to guests whose reservations had been delayed by the show. We slid them under doors with vouchers and a phone number that rang to my team, not to the desk. If harm is public, repair begins public too. At 1:30 a.m., I walked the property with Marcus and Sarah. We looked at every place a guest first meets the hotel. Doorway, doormat, eye line, tone. Where does judgment hide? Where does warmth live? We moved the rope stanchion so the desk didn't feel like a border. We dropped the counter flowers 3 inches and changed the temperature 2 degrees warmer. People think culture is words. It is also thermostats and sightlines. At 2:15, the QR code signs went up at the entrance desk, elevators, bar. I tested one with my phone and watched the report form appear. What happened, where, who, optional photo, submit. In 10 seconds, documentation beat denial. Sarah watched the screen and whispered, "That's fast." Good. Speed steals excuses. At 2:40, we ran the first mini training. Not slides. Role play. Marcus played a guest in a hoodie with a paid reservation. Sarah played the clerk who panics. We rewound until the greeting sounded like hospitality instead of suspicion. "Good evening, welcome in. Can I see your confirmation so I can get you checked in quickly?" That one sentence removed 3 ways to offend someone in the first 5 seconds. By 3:10, we wrote the nightly checklist. Greet, confirm, verify, escalate. We defined escalate narrowly so fear couldn't hide inside it. We wrote a script for when bias shows its face. "I'm sorry for how you were treated. Here is what I'm doing right now to fix it. Here is your incident number. Here is when I will update you." Not "I'm sorry you feel, I'm sorry we did." Language as repair, not as cover. At 4, we set up a briefing for the morning shift. Daniel emailed his statement to corporate and left his number as a witness. He shook Sarah's hand at the door. "Do the work," he said. She didn't promise with words. She promised by showing up at 6:45 in a fresh shirt with a notebook and a face that knew this was day one. The sun rolled a thin line of gold across the marble at 7:12. Guests came down with luggage and coffee and opinions. We were ready, not perfect. Ready beats perfect every time. The new manager, Kesha, arrived at 8:02 with a travel mug and a binder thick enough to be a message. She hugged Sarah, shook Marcus's hand, read my incident summary and said, "Let's turn this place into a promise. 90 days is both a blink and a lifetime." We marked it not with cake but with data. Revenue up 34%. Not because marble got shinier, because guests stopped feeling small. Satisfaction jumped to 4.6. The comment words changed. Warm, seen, fast, fair, finally. The refund graph thinned. The complaint tracker didn't go silent. It went honest. Issues were caught in hour 1, not week 5. The legal exposure meter slid from red toward yellow. That bar is the kind of quiet that lets you sleep. Sarah's probation ended on a Wednesday when she stopped to whisper before it became policy. A new clerk rolled her eyes at a guest's close. Sarah stepped in with a smile and a spine. "Let's get you checked in." Then in the back office, she held a mirror up without breaking it. "We don't do that here." She didn't announce the win. Culture announced it for her. Her badge changed from associate to supervisor, not as a prize, but as a responsibility with more edges. Marcus became guest relations manager. He built a small team that roamed the lobby not to watch, but to notice. They learned regulars by name, learned first-timers by questions, learned how to close the space between uncertainty and welcome in a single sentence. When an issue occurred, Marcus owned it in public, and the apology email left his outbox within an hour. Speed, clarity, repair, repeat. Kesha rewired the shift meetings. Every day started with a dignity story. Not the best sale. The best save. The time someone chose policy over pride, help over heat. People learned to want those stories attached to their names. Promotions began to look like the city we serve. That wasn't charity. That was competence finally given a lane. The QR system surprised us. Reports came in that were not complaints but thank yous. A guest whose hijab had been complimented respectfully. A father with 2 kids and 2 suitcases offered water while he checked in. A wheelchair user greeted at eye level because a clerk stepped around the desk. The system wasn't just catching harm. It was catching the right kind of excellence so we could scale it. The live stream that started our mess became a case study. A professor from a business school called to ask permission to teach the night as an example. The video clip of Marcus reading Section 14.3 played in classrooms where 20-year-olds learned their first management truth. Rules without courage are just fonts. The plaque at the foot of the desk read in small letters, "Dignity is not decor." On day 90, I stood where my card had been crushed and watched a family check in. The kid in the Spider-Man hoodie bounced. The mom asked about the pool, the dad asked about parking. The clerk smiled, made eye contact, and spoke to the kid first. "Welcome in. We've been waiting for you." It took exactly 9 seconds to make them feel at home. 9 seconds is the difference between a sale and a story someone tells their friends for a decade. We've been chasing that 9 seconds ever since. I recorded the last message on my phone with the lobby quiet behind me, and the morning shift smoothing the day forward. I didn't rehearse. I didn't need to. People ask how not to hate after a night like that. I don't waste hate on people when systems are the thing to fix. Hate is a bonfire that burns the wrong wood.
Policy is plumbing.
You repair it and the water runs clear for everyone. If you've ever been measured by a stranger's fear, hear me. What happened to you is not your fault, and your voice is not a burden. Say what happened, write it down. Ask for the rule in writing. Ask for names. Ask for an incident number. Ask when you'll be updated. Good companies won't be scared by those questions. They'll be grateful because that's how they get better. If you run a business, hear me. You don't need a chandelier. You need a checklist. Make dignity the first box. Tie training to pay. Tie praise to behavior you want repeated. Tie discipline to behavior you won't allow. Put a QR code on the wall and a human behind the inbox. Put someone brave at the desk and back them when they say no to a bad script in a nice suit. If you work the front line, hear me. You will feel a tug to belong by agreeing with the loudest person. Belonging that requires someone else to shrink is not belonging. It's a bargain with your better self. Choose the quiet courage that makes a guest breathe easier. That choice will build a career that doesn't collapse when the lights come on. We turned one ugly night into a blueprint because we refused to let it be content. The internet gave us attention. Policy gave us a path. People gave us the work. That triangle holds. Keep receipts. Keep your voice. Keep your standard. When you see someone get small, make the room bigger. When you see a gate, ask who built it and who benefits. Then build a door. If you needed a sign to start, this is it.